Coming up on show 744, the Polestar 2 is now in production, so here are 4 reasons why you might want to buy one. Stick around, we'll tell you more. Plus the Tesla Model Y, it can tow. Shock horror. Tesla prices the longer range and the performance Model 3s for China. The Ford F-150 plug-in hybrid gets its estimated range. If you're into double figures, we'll be doing well. And the world's first zero-emissions construction sites. Those stories and many more coming up on today's podcast. Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Wherever you're listening around the world, welcome to what happened on Friday, the 10th of April. My name is Martyn Lee, and I go through every EV story, so you don't have to. As always, thank you to MyEV for helping make the show, myev.com. In the USA, at least, if you're lucky enough to have the website in the US, is a place where you can learn about EVs, where you can buy and sell and research them, talk about them, even look at financing and warranties as well. If you're a dealer, check out the new section, a dedicated website only about EVs. So, yesterday, Tesla announced that you can indeed tow with the Model Y, and they updated the website for you to select the Model Y tow hitch. You'll get your tow hitch on the Model Y for $1,000 down, and for that, you'll be able to tow up to £3,500. What Tesla call a high-strength Class 2 steel tow bar. Says CNET, it won't challenge the Ford Expedition or Chevrolet Tahoe, but it should be enough to haul a small trailer or maybe even a boat. And it's a very quick change after the Model Y owner's manual only recently said the SUV is not rated for towing at all. And more good news for Model Y owners. We knew it was coming, but you can now get the roof rack as well. The accessory was always going to be on the way. It's now available for $450. It looks identical to the one on the Model 3. I would say it probably is identical to the one on the Model 3. And that is a big couple of things for people who want to use their car in a more utilitarian way. If you want to go away for weekends away, or you're hauling stuff, a tow hitch and a top box or a leaf roof rack is so important. It's been a bit of a saga, hasn't it, the Model Y story of the tow hitch. When those spy photos came out in January, there was one particularly that showed a very, very clear tow hitch on the car. Then, in February, when editions of the manual were released, it made very clear the Model Y will not tow. The Model Y is not rated for towing. Which nobody believed, because if the 3 can tow, the Y can tow. Anyway, so come March, after the Model Y manual saying, look, it's not going to tow, it can't tow. Cars got delivered in March, the teardown videos inevitably happened, and people noticed that that plastic cover on the rear bumper, that cutout, was still there in the production versions. So, of course, people took it off, and underneath is exactly where you would put a tow bar. And then in April, Tesla came out and said, the Model Y will not tow. It is not rated for towing. You can't tow with the Y. And what are we on today? 10th of April. It took 10 days later for them to go, oh, funny story. By the way, it can completely tow. And would you like a tow hitch? It is a saga. And I find it a little weird. I find it strange that the Model Y was always going to tow. So why was the car initially put on sale for those first few weeks as not being able to tow? Anyway, if it was a deal breaker for you and you held off not buying a Y because, or you thought, well, an aftermarket tow hitch is going to cost me a fortune to have installed, I'm not going to buy one, you can go ahead and order now, and you can get a Model Y with a tow hitch just like you can with the Model 3. Well, I say that, but I believe it's still the case. I'll defer to any Tesla experts here. I believe it's still the case. You can't get a Model 3 in the US with a tow hitch, whereas here in Europe, and especially the Nordic countries as well, towing is a way of life. It's an essential, almost. Everyone tows in countries like Norway. And so, it is available here on the Model 3, but not on all models. So let me rack my brains. I could just look while I'm talking, but let me rack my brains. I believe it is the Standard Range Plus and the Long Range all-wheel drive. Not on the Performance. You can't get the tow hitch on the Performance. And again, another difference in the configurators. I hear American podcasts and I watch those shows online, and they talk about Model 3 Performance with the Performance Upgrade Pack. That's not a thing here. That doesn't exist in our configurator. We've got 3 cars. Standard Range Plus, long range, performance. And if you go performance, you get all of the things included in what in the US you have to tick extra as the performance upgrade pack. Oh, blimey. Are you keeping up? I barely am. Let's move on. Tesla is now pricing cars in China for the ones that you couldn't previously get that were made in China. In other words, the long range and the performance. They are going to be made domestically, and you can now get prices on them. They have now set their price target for the long range rear-wheel drive. Oh my goodness. So yes, in China, long range rear-wheel drive, that's a thing that's not a thing anywhere else. And it's going to be made domestically in China because, remember, at the moment, Gigafactory China only makes the Standard Range Plus, and it's only going to be 13% more to get the long-range version. That's a sign that they are setting a very competitive price point to get people to spend just that little bit extra to get the long-range version. It's going to be $52,000 equivalent before rebates, after subsidies from the Chinese government, and qualifying for the exemption from the purchase tax. The price of the Model 3 comes down, the new long-range version, from 366 to 340,000 yuan. By comparison, before they were making well, they're not making it yet, but if you wanted to import a long-range version, it was going to cost you 440,000 yuan. That's now down to 340,000 yuan. A massive price cut in order to get the car made domestically in China. And as China Daily notes, they haven't stopped there. They've also put prices on the performance versions as well. Tesla Model 3 Performance made in China is now taking orders. If you want to book yours, the pre-subsidy price of 420,000 yuan. In the US version, again, the imported version, 510,000 yuan. That, though, the performance version won't ship until next year. The long-range version, long-range rear-wheel drive, will ship this June. Neither have started production, by the way, in China, but the made-in-China versions continue. Okay, let's get on to Ford. And the Ford F-150 plug-in hybrid is rumoured. And the all-electric range of it is not going to knock your socks off. One of the things that's nice about plug-in hybrid vehicles today is that most of them offer some form of electric driving range. And so, for plug-in hybrids, you can do your daily driving, your daily commute, do your errands without ever touching the combustion engine, which of course, I suppose, helps on maintenance as long as it is never used, but these all have some sort of service cycle anyway, where the engine will fire up if it needs to, just to run the oils and things around it. And so, if you can do as many miles as possible on electric, that's great. Ford F-150 is coming as a plug-in hybrid version. The new rumour on the all-electric driving range of the plug-in hybrid Ford F-150 is, according to the Ford Authority website, 10 miles, which isn't great. And that is, not only is it a very short driving distance, that is the unloaded figure. So, of course, a truck, not all trucks, but some trucks are working vehicles. They're going to have stuff in the bed, so then it's going to go down. Then it's going to get cold, so then it's going to go down. I don't know what the battery size is. I couldn't find that information out, but I know the F-150 is a big, heavy vehicle, but still, 10 miles on a good day of all-electric range, that could actually do more harm than good. Because people will buy the plug-in hybrid version and think that they're on their first step to electrifying the way they drive, and I suppose they are, but their impression will be, oh, these plug-in hybrid cars, they get me to the end of the road. I'll pop a link to Ford Authority in the show notes if you'd like to read more. Headline story today, 4 reasons why you may want to buy a Polestar 2. Well, production's now started, and so I thought that we would go into this. And the first reason, I found a list on Top Gear that we've pulled this from. And I didn't agree with all of them, but here are the 4 other ones that I agree with. It's basically the drivetrain of a Volvo XC40. And that's a good thing, because Volvo know how to make cars. And actually, the Volvo XC40 Recharge, which is going to be the all-electric version of the XC40, is a fine car. So using the same powertrain as the Polestar 2, that means a 78 kilowatt hour battery, dual motors, so you get all-wheel drive, 402 horsepower, 0 to 62 in 4.7 seconds. Now in the Polestar, that's 470 kilometers of range. In the XC40, it's a bigger car, more of an SUV, 400 kilometres. So you go much farther in the Polestar 2 with all the same stuff underneath. As for the Polestar 2, the EPA target they're still working to is 275 miles of range when it gets its EPA classification certification in the US. Reason number 2, production has now started. And that is more than many wannabe EV car makers can say. Well, it's not long until Polestar 2 starts arriving in showrooms, well, digital showrooms, or Polestar Spaces, as they will be called. In the last couple of weeks, production began at Geely's plant in China. All the units of Polestar 2 are going to be built in China, alongside the XC40s for China and the Lynk & Co cars as well, the Lynk & Co 01. Cars are due to land, at least I know, in the UK. Apologies, I don't know about the US, but I know that they're due to arrive in the UK in July. Virus pandemic allowing. Price for the base model, £49,900. Reason number 3, it can tow. Maximum towing capacity of the Polestar 2 is 1,500 kilograms. And the maximum towing on an unbraked trailer is 750. And that's a lot. 1,500. Isn't that more than the I-Pace? Let's double the I-Pace or something. Similar to an e-tron. And actually, again, obviously this is a Swedish car. Those Nordic countries, towing a reasonable amount is a given. So I'm not surprised, but good news. And the final reason you might want to look at a Polestar 2 is the infotainment system. It's made by Google, and Google with Android Auto have done the Polestar 2's infotainment system. And of course, if you are going to pair up with a tech giant like that, a software expert, you know that at least the OS should be pretty good. Android Auto is coming to Volvos, and obviously that means you get Google Maps, just about the best in the business. You get access to the Play Store, Google's voice assistant. And actually, although our house has the Amazon Alexa in pretty much every room, don't have one down here in the studio at the bottom of the garden where I record, but for all intents and purposes, every other room in the house has got an Amazon Alexa. And we do use voice commands a fair amount. Here's the thing. Put voice commands into a car, and all of a sudden, as cars, well, EVs, are connected. All EVs are connected, right? They all have SIM cards and they have mobile data plans. All of a sudden, voice-activated things in a car makes a lot more sense. To say, play my driving to work playlist. Play the EV News Daily podcast. You know, just saying. Without taking your eyes off the road and your hands off the wheel. Interesting stuff. We'll see how many more cars get deeper voice integration over the coming years. Here's a lovely story for your Friday edition. In cities like Oslo in Norway, which is typically a progressive and green place, I've only been to Norway once, didn't actually go to Oslo. I think the biggest place I went to was somewhere called Stavanger, and then lots of smaller places, and everywhere we went, we just saw tons and tons of EVs. Well, even in places like that, they still have a real problem with CO2 emissions, and it's because of construction. More than 20% of the total emissions in somewhere like Oslo comes from heavy-duty construction equipment. That's a big number, and they are often older, less regulated machines running on more dirty fuel as well. Well, that fact hasn't escaped the authorities in Oslo, and so that's why there's new laws to say that all new public buildings are going to be built fossil-free. And that means all-electric construction equipment, reports the website Red, Green and Blue. Well, in the video that I'll attach to the show notes, you can see these battery-powered pure electric excavators. You were the ones with the big arm at the front that munched soil. You can have a look at the video. It's surprisingly quiet. It's what you would expect, and it's a brilliant piece of legislation, because why not? Because yes, these vehicles are often in one place for many days or weeks or months at a time. You know the workload, you know, you can charge them every night. So it's a very predictable thing, and as long as they can get through a whole workday on battery power, and they can, just charge them overnight. Just charge them slowly. You haven't got to install rapid chargers or even have them with rapid charging capability, which again helps with things like costs. Okay, let's move on. And here's a funny story that I found a couple of days ago on Jalopnik, and I haven't run with it for now because it's sort of, well, it wasn't breaking news, but I thought I had some time on the podcast today, so I'll talk about it. 7 years ago, Mercedes-AMG was really at the cutting edge, the forefront of EV sports car technology. They'd been experimenting with hydrogen and full battery EVs of their gull-winged SLS AMG sports car. They even created a lap record at the Nordschleife, says Jalopnik. In case you don't remember, the Mercedes SLS AMG was a coupe, it was all electric, and it was a limited edition, pure electric, very, very fast sports car 7 years ago. It was out in 2013. They built 100 of them, and with an electric motor on each wheel, you get 740 horsepower. It'd do 160 miles. It only had a 60 kilowatt hour liquid-cooled battery pack, but we're going back to 2013 here. This is when the Model S had only just gone on sale as well. And yes, a 60 kilowatt hour battery pack in a Model S might seem like not a thing. It was a thing. And so all of this at the time was cutting edge. It was bang on exactly where a company like Tesla was as well. But more than the Model S, they were making Mercedes-AMG making a sports car with this. They were doing lap times in 2013. And all of that had a price. It was $550,000 at the time. But that's how far ahead they were. If Mercedes had held up their end of the bargain, imagine 7 years of a development race between Mercedes-AMG, AMG is the quick bit of Mercedes-Benz, and Tesla. And instead, that battle didn't exist. Imagine if you'd had at least two companies making quick sports cars. And of course, Tesla had made the Roadster up until then, but this blitzed the Roadster. And can you imagine where the world would be now? Because it would have dragged other people in. You would bet that if one big German company was doing it, well, BMW would not have been, with their M series, been left behind. So they would have done stuff as well. But instead, where did we end up with? Well, we had an electric smart car from Daimler, an A-Class electric, and now a big, heavy SUV that's very luxurious. The EQC is lovely, but it's not a fire-breathing, lap-eating, fossil car putting down car. 7 years of development of the brains of Mercedes-Benz could have had the most amazing hypercar on the market by now. But we are where we are. And I'd forgotten about that car. It's very interesting. An interesting take, a big Jalopnik article that you can read. I'll pop the link in the show notes if you'd like to read more. Final story today, and we'll go to India. Yeah, we don't often talk about Indian EV stories, but there's a startup called Zip. And this week, they made their first foray into battery swapping technology. They've put 15 battery swapping stations into an area called Gurugram. I probably really butchered that. Sorry, any Indian listeners. According to the website NG Infrapost. But these aren't for cars. These are for electric scooter ride sharing. If you are into your electric scooters and you like your ride sharing scooters, but you don't want to worry about charging them, well, or getting on one without charge, there's a battery swap option in many places, and it takes 3 minutes max. Take the old battery out, put the new battery in, fully charged, off you go again. When you complete the trip, you park up your e-scooter at the Zip parking points, and so that informs them which batteries are low enough to need a battery swap, or you can do that swap yourself as well. You'll get another 75 kilometres of range, it says here. Wowzers, really? That's a long way to go on an e-scooter? Surely not. That's what the press release says. I'll pop a link in the show notes if you'd like to read more. So, question of the week that we'll read out on Sunday. If you're staying at home and not driving, so your car is parked up for longer than usual, a few days, maybe a week or so, what condition are you leaving your battery in? If you're an EV driver, let me know. And if you are researching EVs by listening to this podcast, we can crowdsource a bit of knowledge for you on this one. Email hello@evnewsdaily.com or leave a comment in the show notes. Well, thank you to 237 patrons of the show. Your generosity means that we get to make this every single day. And tomorrow, for Saturday's edition, something a little bit different. I'll explain tomorrow. Stick around for that one. There are 741 No, there are 743 previous shows in the archive, and all of those paid by Patreon. Patreon premium partners are Phil Roberts, Brad Crosby, Avid Technology, Bright Smith for clean tech talent, Porsche of the Village Cincinnati, and Audi of Cincinnati East. If you can leave a little review on Apple Podcasts, it really helps grow the show. Have a wonderful day. I'll catch you tomorrow, and remember, there is no such thing as a self-charging hybrid.